दिखाई दिया और उसके बाद उनके जो कैबिनेट के जो वरिष्ठ उनके जो मंत्री हैं उनके साथ उनका इंट्रोडक्शन कराते हुए और प्रधानमंत्री भी सबका अभिवादन स्वीकार करते हुए पापुआ न्यू गिनी की ये लाइव तस्वीरें आप सिर्फ और सिर्फ
on your screens when it comes to his three-nation tour after concluding his visit to Japan for the summit of the G7 advanced economies. Prime Minister Modi getting that exceptional welcome at Papua New Guinea. The country's Prime Minister James Marape has personally come to the airport to receive the Prime Minister upon his arrival. Those visuals on your screen, Prime Minister Modi getting that grand welcome at Papua New Guinea. His visit to Papua New Guinea will be the first ever by any Indian Prime Minister in Papua New Guinea. He will host the third summit of the Forum for India-Pacific Islands Cooperation, and this will be in joint cooperation with Prime Minister James Marape. Those visuals on your screen, Prime Minister Modi being accompanied by the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, James Marape. Prime Minister Modi earlier said, "I'm grateful that all 14 Pacific Island countries have accepted the invitation to attend this important summit." That is the pitch coming in from Prime Minister Modi. Now, let's remember the FIPIC was launched during his visit to Fiji all the way back in 2014 when he first became Prime Minister. Prime Minister Modi there getting a grand welcome in Papua New Guinea. And as I was saying, Prime Minister Modi said that he was grateful that all 14 Pacific Island countries have accepted the invitation to attend this important summit. And as I was saying, the FIPC was launched during his visit to Fiji in 2014. Remember, he became Prime Minister in 2014. Now, on his visit to Australia, the Prime Minister will meet his Australian counterpart as well, Albanese. That is the next leg of his journey. Prime Minister Modi will be in Australia from May 22nd to 24 in the third and final leg of his trip. I'm joined by my colleague Siddhant as well as Maria Shakil on the phone line. Maria, I'll come to you first. Prime Minister Modi, of course, leveraging his own personal brand whenever it comes to India's foreign policy, a very significant outreach when it comes to Prime Minister Modi's India-Pacific agenda, being the first Prime Minister to visit Papua New Guinea as part of this coalition-building effort with India at the center.
Yes, that's right. And this particular summit, which is the 2023 summit, will be attended by leaders from all 14 countries, Ayushman. And it is being seen as a unique opportunity, particularly for collaboration and dialogue, because these are the countries which are facing several challenges in terms of their connectivity, in terms of their geographical positioning as well. That is the reason why India has been underscoring the fact that there is a need to strengthen ties between India and the Pacific region. And that is why the Prime Minister's appearance in Papua New Guinea is being seen as a rare participation that is coming in from the Prime Minister, in which he was welcomed by the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea. And this will be the third summit of the Forum for India-Pacific Islands Cooperation. So, if you look at the background of it, this is a multinational grouping which was developed in 2014 and which is for cooperation between India and 14 Pacific Islands companies, which includes the Cook Islands, Fiji, among many others, Solomon Islands also, and Palau and others. So the reason it becomes particularly important because the Prime Minister has moved now from G7, which he attended in Hiroshima. He also attended the Quad Summit, which happened on the sidelines. In Hiroshima, his participation certainly was, power-packed in the sense that he had a series of bilaterals and also several summit-level meetings in which he had one meeting along with, President Joe Biden as well, where the two leaders were seen embracing each other. So, and meeting with Zelensky, of course, becoming the big high point and the highlight of this meeting, which happened in Hiroshima. So the point being made here, Ayushman, is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is firmly positioning India on the global map. There is a lot of curiosity around India, around the India story, as to what India is doing right. So that is why when you look at these images of a rare welcome being accorded to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he is there for a brief 12 hours before he heads to Australia for a bilateral with Anthony Albanese, and also there is a community event which has been planned in Sydney.
Right. Siddhant, I want to take that point to you. Like when it comes to the FIPIC, and this is a massive outreach by the Modi government when it comes to creating coalitions in the Indo-Pacific. The FIPIC was launched during his visit to Fiji in 2014. And we are now in 2023. So it seems that vision of creating this coalition of nations with India at the center of it, India leveraging both its economic as well as military power when it comes to expanding its agenda in the Indo-Pacific. This has been something that Prime Minister Modi has been working on ever since he became Prime Minister.
Well, absolutely. And in fact, even the Western countries say this, that there is no Indo-Pacific without India. And until 2041, Ayushman, nobody from Indian policy, foreign policy makers have ever paid attention to the 14 Pacific Island nations. In 2014, perhaps for the first time, that Pacific Island nations came into the radar of Indian foreign policy maker, and this is perhaps the reason that today Prime Minister Modi is in Papua New Guinea, and in fact, you can see, breaking all protocols, the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea has reached airport to receive Prime Minister Modi, and perhaps he's also getting tarmac guard of honor right on the tarmac. So this is very rare welcome which any state leader gets in Pacific Island. And tomorrow PM will hold this summit with 14 other nations, and this is going to be the third summit. Lot of bilateral agreements are going to get signed, and perhaps there's also a possibility of visa waiver agreement, which is likely on the cards. Also, a very important point which I would like to highlight here is that these Pacific Islands are very important with regards to growing Chinese dominance, aggression in Indo-Pacific. And perhaps India is one of the nations which strongly believes in free and open Indo-Pacific. And time and again, India has not just endorsed the idea, but has given efforts to make sure that Indo-Pacific remains free and open for each and everyone and doesn't get dominated by countries like China, which believes
right. Siddhant, just stay with us. We're getting some visuals of this ceremony, this welcome ceremony that Prime Minister is getting in Papua New Guinea. Let's listen in. Prime Minister Modi there getting a grand welcome in Papua New Guinea as India leverages its diplomatic clout in the Pacific region. James Marape, the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, welcoming Prime Minister Modi to the nation. This is the second leg of his tour where he pushes that Naya Bharat agenda. Prime Minister Modi there with Prime Minister James Marape. I also have my colleague Abhishek Jha on the phone line. Abhishek, when it comes to India's agenda to leverage its diplomatic, economic, and even military power when it comes to expanding its influence in the Indo-Pacific. Prime Minister Modi has had this agenda ever since he became Prime Minister. When it comes to expanding its influence, decode the relations that India continues to expand in the Indo-Pacific when it comes to taking on bigger Asian powers and in fact rivals like China. Right, we'll try to reconnect with our reporters over there. But Prime Minister Modi there getting a grand welcome in Papua New Guinea over there. Remember, he is in Papua New Guinea for the third summit of the Forum for India-Pacific Islands Cooperation. This will begin on Monday and he will host that ceremony jointly with Prime Minister James Marape. Now, Prime Minister Modi also getting a cultural welcome in Papua New Guinea, those visuals on your screen. And Prime Minister Modi has said that I am grateful that all 14 Pacific Island countries have accepted the invitation to attend this important summit. Let's listen in to that ceremony that's taking place at the airport in Papua New Guinea.
Welcome to the land of the most equitable people. Namaste.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Thanks a lot and thanks for the
And Prime Minister Modi there getting that cultural welcome in Papua New Guinea. And those visuals on the right side of your screen, ladies and gentlemen, as well. Prime Minister Marape touching the Prime Minister's feet in a mark of respect. Remember, when it came to the FIPIC, which is the Forum for India-Pacific Islands Cooperation, this was formed in 2014 when Prime Minister Modi ascended to the when Narendra Modi then ascended to the office of Prime Minister. FIPC was launched during his visit to Fiji in 2014. So that mark of respect coming in from the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, who is touching those visuals on the right side of your screen, touching the Prime Minister's feet as a mark of respect. India leading that foreign policy charge when it comes to expanding its influence in the Pacific region. This is, remember, 14 Pacific Island countries that have accepted the invitation to attend this important summit, which will kick off on Monday. This will be hosted by Prime Minister Modi along with Papua New Guinea's Prime Minister James Marape. Siddhant continues to be with us on the broadcast. So Siddhant, a cultural welcome, the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea even touching Prime Minister Modi's feet. This is high on optics, but behind all of this is a very concerted effort to expand India's influence in the Indo-Pacific as a counter to the other Asian giants, namely China.
Well, absolutely. And in fact, perhaps this has never happened in the history maybe in the history of diplomatic relations, or even this is not in my knowledge that a head of a state of one country is touching feet of the head of a state of another country as a mark of respect. This also talks about the trust that not only Indians have on Prime Minister Modi, but perhaps the world leaders have on Prime Minister Modi. And this is why India positioned itself as a leader of Global South, because India can only understand the aspirations of countries like Papua New Guinea. India can only talk about the problems, the difficulties these countries are facing on forums like G7, G20, or perhaps in United Nations. And look, today, Ayushman, what we all witnessed, the time Prime Minister got down from the plane immediately at the time of receiving the Prime Minister Modi, the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea bent down, touches his feet in a mark of respect. This shows that what Prime Minister Modi has achieved, the confidence of the world leaders. And also, Ayushman, during the COVID-19 crisis, when every country was busy in providing vaccines to their own citizens, India was perhaps one of the few nations which stood out and said that we are going to provide vaccines to the other nations, and that too free of cost. And Pacific Islands were those nations which were selected by India to send vaccination free of cost, and perhaps the other help in terms of pharmaceutical products were also provided to them during those times. And maybe that is the reason in those moments, the way India has helped them in difficult times, maybe that is the reason that today the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea got emotional and touches Prime Minister Modi's feet. It is historic, talks about Prime Minister's popularity, talks about that how his concerns for Global South, his concerns for small nations are touching the hearts of the head of the states of these nations. And look, the kind of reception he's getting the guard of honor on the tarmac. The celebrations are going on right there at the tarmac. And also, one thing which I would like to tell to our viewers, that these Pacific Islands, especially the Papua New Guinea, they were really excited to participate in this summit. And in fact, one senior diplomat, I don't want to name him, told me that the time they got the information that Biden is also coming on the same day, they called Biden an intruder. So they were all excited to welcome Prime Minister Modi, but they did not like that Biden also selected the same day. So it talks about Prime Minister's growing popularity, and also it tells that how these Pacific Islands have more trust, more faith and confidence on Prime Minister Modi's leadership than on President Biden's leadership. Second, and the most important point, till now these nations have a really good bilateral relationship with China, all of these nations. And in fact, China has been helping them a lot in building their countries. But since 2014, the situation has completely changed. India has been doing a lot of work in these countries and providing them with material, providing them with credit loans and whatever they are asking for. Because Prime Minister's motto has always been Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas.
Absolutely. I think, Siddhant, we'll have to take a short break. Please stay with us. We're going to come back after a quick break. Those are the visuals from Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea as Prime Minister Modi gets that grand welcome as he touches down in the country. We're going to take a quick break and continue with this coverage of Prime Minister Modi's whirlwind tour after a short break.